If you're a fan of MMA, you've probably heard of this living legend before. Affectionately dubbed the babysitter to the stars by Joe Rogan, Burt Watson is so much more than that. Fixer, mentor, cheerleader, coordinator, and friend. Loved by fans and fighters alike, it is my honor and pleasure to welcome the living legend Burt Watson to the Must Love MMA show. How are you tonight, Burt?
Oh, I'm trying to make it, baby. How about yourself?
I'm good. Now, you have some exciting news to share with our viewers. Congratulations on your new gig with CFFC Fighting Championships. Tell me a little bit about what that gig is about and when you start.
Well, I'm basically going to be taking up the same role that I had previously. Obviously, the CFFC is an established organization that already has a system in process. But, I'm going on board to enhance, to take my knowledge, to take some of the things that I've created to the table. I'm excited about it. It's a regional promotion, which, me living in Philadelphia and being from Philadelphia, it's exciting. After being on the road for 25 or 30 years between boxing and MMA, it's exciting for me to be able to stay local, travel local, and to give the experience that I've learned over the course of the years to a company like the CFFC. And it's exciting. First show is July 18th at the Borgata Hotel in Atlantic City. The main event is a middleweight bout between Mr. Williams and Mr. Smith. I'm looking forward to meeting all the guys and working with a lot of the new up-and-coming young fighters and MMA fighters and kind of giving my input where it might be needed. Most importantly, baby, I'm looking to yell, scream, and roll again all night long.
I'm sure there's a whole long list of fighters who are waiting to hear that famous expression. And I know that they're going to benefit greatly from your wisdom and knowledge. Was the location of the organization a factor in you deciding to go with this group? Because my guess is after your stint with the UFC, there were a lot of people knocking at your door.
It was one of the determining factors, but most importantly, I met Rob Haydack,
okay,
who is the chief executive officer. I got to meet him. I got real good vibes, as a coordinator and a babysitter to the stars. I have to take a person in front of me, assess them, and I got 5 minutes, baby, to be spot on. And I got good vibes. Mike Constantino, who I've known for the longest time, if you don't know, the CFFC has put over the last 7 years, I'd say maybe 9 or 10 fighters in the UFC.
Right.
So they have had a great feeder system. That's where I met Mike Constantino, and just that alone, with my meeting with Rob and the opportunity to do some family time, the opportunity to stay local and still be effective, man, come on, baby. I've been lucky all my life. I just got luckier.
Sounds like a match made in heaven. Burt, I did a little digging on Facebook and found a funny videotape of you getting ready for work, and we're going to roll it now. Now, look, seriously, Burt, you got to clarify this because all my viewers are going to think that all you do is dance. And by the way, those are some pretty good dance moves, but that isn't all you do is dance. Tell our viewers what goes on in a typical day or week for Burt Watson.
Well, I have to motivate myself. I have to get myself motivated to go all night long and yell and scream and motivate all the guys the best way I know how, and dancing and moving, that's kind of how I do it. Now, I don't know how you got that, but, that's how I warm myself up. That's how I get myself.
That's your warm-up.
Between that and my music and my mental and the attitude of the guys and the camps around me, that's how I get motivated. And so, I do that all the time. All the time.
It definitely looks like it's working for you. You've got the right methodology down, I must admit.
Well, I'm also from Philly, so you saw a little bit of Philly You saw a little bit of natural rhythm, and you saw a lot of this, baby, because that's just where it came from.
Burt, we've spoken before in a pre-interview, and I know one of the greatest gifts you have is I feel like you have an intuitive sense about what goes on in the dressing room behind stage. I want our viewers to understand that there's so many elements going on, and your role is really a protector of the fighters. How do you kind of figure out when the fighters had too much, say in an interview, or to throw someone out of the dressing room? Is that from experience, or is that just I think it's probably maybe even a natural gift you have?
The fact that those fighters get in that cage and do what they do is probably the most important part of any promotion. But most importantly, they have to have a comfort level all week long through the weigh-in, fight night, that they are there not just to get in the cage and perform, but that they are there to express their technical skills and be taken care of at the same time. Yeah, I tell a lot of my guys when I first meet the fighters in the camps, if it's up here, baby, I want it right here. Yeah. If it's in here, especially if it's in here, I want it right here. The only stupid question is the one you don't ask. Right. I want a comfort level across the board. And in order to get that comfort level, you have to know what it is they need, listen to what it is that they need, and do what it is that they need, and show them that you can do it effortlessly, without any type of effort, without it being a distraction, without you not wanting to do it, and let them know that you're going to take care of them. And that's very, very, very important, that they get a comfort level. Yeah. And there's 1,001 things that they need to have that done. And that's what I plan to try to do and take with me to the CFFC.
What's the toughest situation that you've had to deal with in your 14 years of being an MMA, or maybe even before that, because you have years of experience in boxing as well?
The toughest thing is to really get a fighter to really confess to you that he's not feeling well or he's really hurt, because their thing is, I'm getting in that cage or that ring regardless. I don't care how hurt I am or how bad I may feel. I'll do it later. The toughest thing is to get them to commit to that, to let you know that it is. But most importantly than that, I don't watch fights because it's hard for me to celebrate a winner and hug a loser. That's tough for me to watch. So when I take them to the cage and I let them go, I walk them and I let them go to work. I wait till they come home from work with that check. Other than that, I don't want to see what goes on between, because I feel it here. And it's real tough to see some of the toughest men in the world come back after a defeat and they're dejected. Some of them cry, some of them are disappointed, but you feel that disappointment. Yeah. Because you're with them all week long. Yeah. You're with them in preparation. And that's the toughest part of it. Everything else is a part of the process.
Not only that you're with them all week in competition or training or getting ready for the fight, you've been such a fixture in the industry for so long. I'm sure there's fighters that you've seen go from maybe the undercard up to the main card. Would you not agree?
They all do, every one of them. But, Susan, I try to put in their head that once you get to any level of professionalism, you're as big as it gets. You're at the top of the heap. You can go to the left or you can go to the right, but once you get in there and you become an MMA fighter, you're as good as it gets. You're as good as everybody else. Because when that bell rings, everybody is at the same level.
That's true.
But somebody has to perform and somebody has to win. So they need to be prepared for that. So I try to instill across the board that, it's all the same. I just recently, with CFFC, I went to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and I got to see an amateur fight. And then I got to see some amateurs in Kansas City. First time I didn't even know. Yeah, that's awesome. I knew there was an amateur program, but I never saw one, because I always got, and I still get, guys at the highest level. But I knew there was a feeder system. But to see that, man, oh man, it ain't in trouble, baby.
They have a great amount of talent at that organization. They really do. What do you love most about the sport of MMA, do you think?
The fact that they match these guys and they put them in the cage and they make them fight. Yeah. You got to fight to win. I did, and I'm not bad mouthing boxing, and I went through boxing for years. But you can take a guy and you can create his record. You can create a situation for him to fight specifically. Since I've been involved in MMA, I've never ever seen a guy given a fight to help pad his record. They all fight.
Yeah, they all bring it.
They all got they got to bring it. The only thing I tell them, don't leave it to the judges, baby, because they will make you cry.
It's such good advice. How did your famous phrase come along? And please share with our viewers what that phrase is.
I've been doing this part of coordinating and fighter relations for a long time. I don't want to say that I'm very hypey, maybe it might show a little bit, but I used to run in and out of the dressing rooms, up and down. And fighters have to be prepared to get into the cage. They have to know you got to keep your gloves on. They got to know you got to wrap your hands. They got to know that you're on deck, you're next. And the only way to do that was in and out of the dressing room, in and out of the dressing room. Well, I got tired of that. I got tired of running in and out of the dressing room. So I stood up in the hall one night and I found a place where, I'm an old school doo-wop guy. I found a place where the echo was right. And I said, you know what? I am not leaving this spot. I'm going to yell at him. And I called him. So I started yelling. I started going down the hall. You got 60 minutes before we go live, baby. You got 1-5 before we go live. You got 5 minutes before we hit that hole, baby. Then when it's time to go out walking around, I'll say, it's time to go to work. It's time to go to work. And you know what that means when it's time to go to work, baby? That means we rollin'! Yeah!
Oh, Burt, I love it. What a great honor to have you hear you say that on my program, to see you say that on my program. Congratulations on your Lifetime Achievement Award from Fighters Only that you got this year. What did it mean for you to win that award?
That was the very first time in all of my career that I received awards of that magnitude. And I was overwhelmed. I was proud of it. They snuck it up on me. They didn't tell me I was going to get it. They just told me I'm going to be there. And I thought I was there to present an award to someone because I had done that before with Tito Ortiz. So they had me there, and they started talking. When I heard them talking about, he's a former Marine and this and that, I sank down in my seat. Overwhelming. I still have that trophy right behind me, which I look at every day. I'm very proud of it. Lifetime achievement is that. It's lifetime, and it tells you what people think of the work you've put in to what you do, and I'm proud of it.
An honor well deserved, I might add. Let me ask you a question. If you could be involved in only one last time back in the dressing room, you only have, it's that last fight, the last time you're ever going to be in the dressing room, and you had to pick two fighters that were in quarter A and quarter B, the red or the blue quarter, so to speak, who would those two people be?
That's a tough one.
I know.
It's because I've already said that I don't like to see a winner or a loser.
Okay.
So if I did matchmaking and put them together, I'd have to try to pick a winner and a loser, and I don't want to do that.
Okay, fair enough.
But I would love to, again, Matt Hughes, who's a legend, Chuck Liddell is a legend, Randy Couture is a legend. To walk one of those guys out again will be pretty good stuff. But Randy, I feel older than I could because I've already walked his son. I've already walked his son out. So.
Oh, that's so funny. Growing up, did you watch boxing? Were you a fan of it growing up? Because you did start in boxing as well.
I watched boxing when I grew up because, like everyone else at the time, I grew up, in the 60s. It was mega sports. It was Muhammad Ali, it was Joe Frazier. It was all of the guys. It was very popular. We were very good. The USA on the Olympics, we were very good. So I was involved and very much a boxing fan, and had no idea that one day I would eventually be involved in the level that I became involved with Joe Frazier. But I've always been a boxing fan.
Most people don't know that you got your start in the fashion industry, and that was sort of your entree into Joe Frazier. Can you share that story with our viewers?
When I got out of the Marine Corps, I moved to New York. I was in New York City, and I got my first job in New York City with Burlington Industries. I sold piece goods. I sold piece goods to manufacturers of men's suiting. H. Friedman, Botany 500, Perry Ellis. I sold piece goods to all of those high fashion outlets. I went to Mayer School of Fashion Design. I learned how to do pattern making, grading, and then I got a job. They kind of stole me from Burlington Industries with Levi Strauss, and I started with them. I sold piece goods for Levi Strauss. So I was in the fashion industry for a minute, had no idea. Chance meeting one day, walking down the street, I met Joe Frazier. Chance meeting on the street in New York. Wow. True story.
You have worked with so many fighters, both MMA and boxing. The list is just ginormous, as they say. Can you give us a laundry list of all those wonderful people you've had the pleasure of working with?
I started my career with Smoking Joe Frazier. During my time with him, I worked with Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali, Ken Norton, Larry Holmes, George Foreman. Over the course of time, I've worked with Roberto Duran and Sugar Ray Leonard, Julio Chavez. I worked with the Klitschko brothers. I worked with them when they first came to the U.S. and had their pro debut. They actually were the last fighters that I worked with because my schedule with the UFC didn't allow me to accept any other jobs because I was always working every weekend. Roy Jones, Bernard Hopkins, Oscar De La Hoya. I did Tyson's last 5 fights. Wow. First fight I did with Mike Tyson was right here in Philadelphia when he fought Buster Douglas. From that point on, I did 5 of his fights. Arturo Gatti, I worked with Arturo Gatti. I worked with Sugar Ray Leonard. I did he and Macho Camacho, the last fight that they did. Roy Jones, Vinny Pazienza. Yeah, the only person I've never worked with is Lennox Lewis. Anybody else, somewhere along the line through some promotion, I've worked with.
Yeah, like I was just saying before, viewers, there's a reason why I was given that Lifetime Achievement Award. He's worked with just about everybody in boxing, and you have been with the UFC for 14 years, making you the MMA living legend that you are. What do you like to do in your free time, Burt? Doesn't sound like you might have a little more now, but when you were on the road, did you have any free time, and what did you do with it?
Didn't have a lot of free time, but when I did, it was all family time. It was all spent at home. I've made myself a part of a process being that I'm up at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. I go to bed 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. I drink Grand Marnier and Heineken, but I rest and I sleep. But most of the time, my spare time is spent watching black and white TV because I love Westerns. I love horses. And spending time with my family and honing my skills a little bit because at this point in my life, at this stage in my life, it's up here.
Yeah.
It's all here and here. And you can hone that sitting right here in this chair.
Now, recently you had a chance to be at a fighter's wedding. Tell me who the fighter was and what you were doing there because it was a great event.
And friends and family, for the very first time, as Mr. and Mrs. Joe
so exciting. Just recently, probably a couple of weeks after I had left the UFC, I was home, and I've gotten close with most of the fighters I worked with. And Joe Lazone's camp, Steve Mays and the rest of his guys, they called me and they wanted to know, well, what are you doing on such and such a day? And I said, I'll probably do whatever you want me to do. And they said, well, listen, Joe is getting married. We would like you to come to the wedding and introduce Joe and his bridal party. I was excited. I said, you know what, is you get me there, I'll do it. And they did. So they brought me in. Joe got married on a Friday. They brought me in that Friday about 11 o'clock. They hid me in a hotel. And when he was on his way to the reception, I was on my way to the reception. When I got there, they hid me in the back room. They introduced the bridal party with the best man. And then when it was time for Joe to come out, they gave me the microphone. That was the first, and that was unbelievable. Cool. And I've known Joe. I've known all these guys from the time they've come into the UFC till now. I've gone with them through their career. All of the guys that were in his wedding party, all the guys that were around him, and he just recently had some medical issues with their recent baby, which God willing they have now gone through and gotten through, and now they're married. So I was happy to be a part of that. And I gave it to him, baby. I gave it to him good.
Speaking of proud moments, reflecting back on your career, what do you think is your proudest moment?
There was a time in my career when I had the distinct pleasure to meet Nelson Mandela, and I put Joe Frazier's belt that he won March 8th, 1971. I took that belt and gave it to Nelson Mandela. And that was a very, very proud moment. Didn't know how long that would last or follow me. And here it is now, almost 20 years later, and it still follows me. And I'm very, very proud of that. And next to that was me meeting President Obama one-on-one. And I accidentally, we did a show in Pittsburgh. They had the rooms set up. My room was set up right next to the sauna, which everyone used. The night before, the Secret Service came in. The hotel already told me, we have a guest in the hotel, and they're going to have to come in and kind of scout your room around because that person's going to be on the floor. Hotel wouldn't tell me who it was. I'm not even thinking. But I was okay with them as long as they came in my room and didn't touch my gloves. Because I had the gloves. They came that night, scouted around, they sent the sniff dogs in, they did it. The next day they came back and they said to me, person's coming down, we want to make sure that no one's in the hall. And so I left my door open and they walked on past and took that person into the sauna, which was right next to my room, the fitness center. So as I was leaving, I said to them, I said, I really need to check the sauna to make sure that the sauna is working. Because they had already put that little metal wand up and down and surgery. And I said, I need to go in that room because I need to see and make sure the sauna. They said, okay. They walked me in the room by myself. As I walked in the room, there was a pillar that covered up the machines.
Oh, wow.
And I heard the bike go. I walked around the pillar and there was President Obama sitting on a bicycle reading the newspaper.
Wow.
I couldn't believe that it was, and the first thing I could say was, what's up? And he said, how are you? And I said, what an honor. Yeah. And, at that point, I think for the first time, I was babbling because I didn't know what to say. And he said, no, the honor is mine. And I turned around and I walked out. And I walked out and I said to myself, did I just walk into a room with the President of the United States in Pittsburgh? One of the media guys called me because it got out real quick. Well, it got out because I did this. I told everybody. But one of the media guys called me later and they said, Burt, do you know that for that 10 seconds you were probably the most protected man in the world?
Oh, yeah.
But I was. But that was pretty unforgettable.
It's a very cool story. What 3 words would you use to describe yourself, do you think?
Loyal, energetic, and for real.
I like those. How would you like to be remembered?
Just remembered. That's it.
Okay.
I just want to be remembered and not forgotten about, and remembered that what I put into was not something somebody gave me, but what I gave.
Right.
What I put out. and what I put out was for real.
Right.
As long as I remember it, I'm good.
Oh, Burt, I think there's a long list of fighters, managers, trainers, ring girls, executives, just about everybody in MMA boxing. They're not going to forget about you too easily, that's for sure. Now we're going to go to some questions from Twitter. We had a lot of them. MMA Mate Show asks, do you hope to return to the UFC someday? And what is the best thing post-UFC?
Right now, the best thing is that CFFC has found the time and thought enough to bring me on to continue whatever legacy. My legacy now is being productive and teaching. That's the best thing in what's happening now. The UFC is behind me.
Okay.
That's the past. That will never happen again.
He also asks, have any companies hired you as a motivational speaker? And that's a good question. I think you'd be good at that.
I've been asked to do one motivational speech in October for it's an MMA event, and I've been asked to do that, but that's the first and only one I've ever been asked to do.
Sir Mike Skywalker at Mike Skywalker asks, can you hype me up for work every morning? It's so hard to get rolling.
All you got to do is you contact me, Mike, on BurtWatsonForReal.com, and I'll make sure you get something to hype you up, okay?
Okay.
Only you now. Don't pass that around.
Only him. All right.
Only you.
Also, I want to mention that you have some T-shirts for sale on your website. Can you tell our viewers about those?
Yes. I now have a T-shirt that says Babysitter to the Stars, Burt Watson for Real, re-rolling. I like to represent, but right now I'm representing CF. But if you go to my website, BurtWatson4Real.com, it shows you the T-shirt that says Babysitter to the Stars.
Okay. Before we go today, Burt, anything else you'd like to tell our listeners? And can you also give us your social media handles, please?
Well, I would just like to say to everyone, when you know, you can never beat the system, but you can master them at their own game. Never ever think that you can beat the system. Know that there's a system, know that there's a process, and know that you're a part of the process. And when you're a part of the process, you go through the process from here, and from here. And if you do that, you'll be all right. You ever mess up your name, you're done.
Good advice.
And I can be reached on BurtWatson4Real.com. That's on my website, or Burt Watson for Real, either on Twitter or just go to Burt Watson on Facebook.
Burt Watson, an honor to speak with you. I wish you good luck on your new gig with CFFC starting July 18th at the Borgata Hotel and Casino and Spa in Atlantic City. And I also want to wish you a happy birthday. I didn't
Susan,
forget.
it's been a real pleasure.